Previously on A British Guy Plays Pokemon Sword. We met our starter Grookey and we called him Twiglet. We met a scary legendary in the woods, Spooky. We ran into some thugs in a hotel lobby and duffed them up. Found a shiny turtle in the wild area and took her along for the ride. Accidentally misgendered another trainer and got cancelled in the comment section. And finally we won our first gym badge from the grass leader, Milo. As we move on to Route 4, we are stopped by a familiar sight from my Hoenn days. A cameraman and a presenter who, instead of wanting to interview me, just wanted to battle in the middle of the road. Frankel and Rice Cake were up first, taking care of the enemy team of Helioptile and Clink. Magnemite and Electrike were no match either, considering we were still slightly overleveled after that brutal first gym fight. Further along the path, we ran into a Galarian Ponyta, one of my favourite regional forms, and we caught it, naming it Scotchy after one of the commentators and an old friend I used to play Minecraft with a couple of years ago. She has her own channel too, I'll leave the link for that down below. If you like Minecraft, I'm sure you'll love her too. Thank you to everyone who left really nice comments, by the way. It was so lovely to read them all, and I have missed making videos. It's really fun to get it back up and running again. I tried fishing in this little area and found a Feebas, named them Myler-Tonin, and headed over to see what the camp was about. Seems like it's similar to the picnic system in Scarlet and Violet, which is pretty nice. You can throw toys, make food, all while gaining XP and happiness for your Pokemon. I think you can make different food to encounter certain Pokemon types more often, but I'm not really sure, so if anybody has any tips in the comments, I'd love to hear them. Along the way, Thwackey evolved into Rillaboom, and we headed back up the route. Back up onto the main path, I came across a beautiful bridge, but was accosted once again by Team Yell, who were trying to snatch this poor man's bike. It's funny because in the UK, especially London, it's people on bikes trying to steal phones. In Galar, however, it's people on legs trying to steal bikes. It's funny how things are different. Anyway, we made short work of their Linoon, Meowth and Thievul, Purloin, Impidimp and Sableye. Starting to notice a dark theme with Marnie and her fanbase. Nothing gets past me. After saving the man from a robbery at the hands of some people wearing pink, the man in the blue suit decided to just give away the bike he'd fought so hard to keep hold of. Fair enough. As I pedalled away, silently wondering if I had actually just committed a robbery of my own, I found some feathers on the bridge that boost different Pokemon stats. In the center of the bridge and blocking my way as usual to fight was Hop. This guy will not leave me alone. This time I was ready though, and I made short work of his team and his ace Drizzly, evolving Eevee into Sylveon and Wartortle into Blastoise. Hop ran off to fight the next gym leader, leaving me to follow behind, reaching the end of the bridge and dropping into the quaint seaside town of Hulbury. I was met at the town limits by a group of people, all asking for autographs from Rose, the Galar chairman, dressed in some very fetching blue polka dot shorts. Vade, who I now understand is a man and not a woman, is also here, although the chairman, who is the one who thought BD was going to be the next champion and gave him his actual endorsement, seems to have forgotten who the hell he even is. He was whisked away by a new face in Oleana, who seems to maybe be pulling the strings of the chairman behind the scenes. There's always something suspicious going on when that man is about. On the way to the second gym leader, Nessa, who I'm pretty sure is named after the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie for short, a wonderful old Scottish tale about a sea dragon type creature that lives in Loch Ness in Scotland. I'll pull up some photos as proof, shall we say. As I was saying, on the way to Nessa, I saw another path up to the left, which led me to another train station. I'm sure there was a reason I wanted to go to a station. Ah yes, something about a rare Pokemon at Wedgehorst Station, so I bought a second-class ticket. What? I've only got like 500 subscribers, I'm not made of money, you know. And I hopped aboard the train to find this rare specimen. Upon arriving in Wedgehorst and minding the gap as I alighted the train, I found a Galarian Slowpoke that had managed to somehow get onto the train, stay on the train, and then leave the train with seemingly nobody noticing. So I popped it inside a Pokeball, and off we went on our merry adventure together. Back in Hulbury, I headed to the gym, only to be sent on the most pointless excursion I have ever been on in any Pokemon game I've ever played, and I have over 1,000 hours in PokeMMO. I was told that the gym leader was down by the lighthouse. Dutifully, I headed to the lighthouse, said a brief hello to the blue-haired water leader, and promptly followed her back to the gym. 2 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. Inside the gym was a puzzle maze. I had to turn off the coloured buttons which stopped the corresponding water jets, allowing me to make it to the big door at the top. I don't think I'm quite comfortable disclosing exactly how long I spent stuck in here, but with the power of editing I can pretend it was like 2 minutes, and as if by magic, we are through the door and ready to fight Nessa. Nessa's team was cleverly made with some dual typings of water and flying, negating their weakness to grass types, consisting of a Pelipper and a Cramorant, which weren't too bad to take down, a Barraskewda, a Milotic which did scare me into Dynamaxing, a Lantern negating her weakness to electricity, and a Dreadnought which she used her Dynamax bracelet on. Her team was well rounded, but with a few fully evolved Pokemon by this point, and Twiglet leading the team, Nessa was defeated in a much shorter time than Milo. With the second badge safely in the case, I headed back outside the stadium to find Oleana waiting to take me for a meal with the Chairman Rose, which I'm sure will be full of dialogue and we'll get to know all about him. I sat down at the table with Rose, who was instantly told by Oleana that it was time to leave. What is even happening? I left the restaurant barely having even touched my starter and headed onward towards the most imaginatively named mine in the world. I entered Galar mine at number 2 and was met by Bayday, who wanted a rematch. This time I was ready, however, having taught Twiglet knockoff. Based on how many held items this mod had given to trainers' teams, it seemed a no-brainer. Knockoff one-shotted all but Bede's now evolved Hatim, but another was enough to see them off. I definitely prefer Bede as a rival over Hop. He's just too happy. He's definitely not from the UK, I can tell you that much. After leaving Bede and beating up some of the mine workers with rice cake, I ran yet again headfirst into Team Yell. I really need to look where I'm going. They seemed in a hurry and were about to leave when bloody Hop showed up and started giving them cheek, which led to a double battle with the pink guys yet again. We made short work of their team, and on the way out of the mine I found a shiny binnacle. I won't be using it, but I caught it anyway. At the exit we ran into the next gym leader, Fire Trainer Kabu, who was training his fire types against water Pokemon. This man is fearless. Or he doesn't know type matchups. Either way, it was a lovely bit of world building. We made it back out of the mine and re-entered Motostoke, where we learned that this is the location of Gym 3. Upon returning to the Budu Inn to get a restful night after a stressful day, there was one more surprise in store. Marnie, the leader of Team Yell, wanted to make sure that I was up to scratch and ready for the following day's gym encounter. Unsurprisingly, her team was full of dark types, and without a proper counter to them just yet, I had to brute force my way through the fight, with hard-hitting moves to take down her Liepard, Morpeko, Morgrem, and Scraggy, evolving my Corvisquire into Corviknight in the process. I was never initially intending to use Rookidee, but she's fast becoming a massive part of my team. Makes me sad I never gave her a nickname now. After a disturbed sleep full of nightmares about rookies with no names, I was up and ready to take on Kabu and his gym challenge. This time the gym challenge was slightly different. A single room with grass and Pokemon encounters. 1 point for defeating one and 2 for a catch. The catch, the other type of catch this time, was that these were 2-on-1, with the gym trainers trying to snipe the Pokemon before I could catch or defeat them. With Rice Cake in tow, however, I made it to the needed 5 points in record time, caught a Litwick for good measure, and headed down the daunting tunnel to fight Kabu. Kabu led with Ninetales and I led with Rice Cake, deciding to use the insanely overpowered move Shell Smash, which lowers the user's defense and special defense by 1 stage, while raising the attack, special attack and speed by 2 stages. This is a great setup move for Blastoise, but I was worried when I saw the opposing Ninetales outsped and sharply increased its own special attack first. I needn't have worried, however, as Hypnosis missed, and 2 Aqua Tails were enough to see off Kabu's leader Pokemon. Magmar was out next and was seen off by a critical hit single Aqua Tail. Galarian Marowak was the next Pokemon brought out, another really cool Galarian form. It looks so good, but looks aren't everything, as a single boosted Aqua Tail was enough to send it back to Lavender Tower. That one might be a little too dark. Kabu then sent out a scarier Arcanine, who I knew would not go down in a single attack this time. I considered a second Shell Smash, and after seeing Arcanine's Intimidate ability lowering my attack back down, I decided to go with it, but I shouldn't have risked it. Arcanine used Burn Up, a 130 base power attack, leaving Rice Cake in yellow health after those Shell Smashes. Then, before I could move, the signature Extreme Speed took Rice Cake out. I will say I had allowed myself 2 revives per gym leader, given the mod's increased difficulty, and more to the point, needing this episode to be out before Christmas being a top priority. I used one to bring MVP Rice Cake back from the grave, and then set up Hone Claws with Corviknight to see if I could at least do some damage to the threatening Arcanine that stood between me and the 3rd gym badge. Extreme Speed hadn't done much, so I greedily decided on another Hone Claws, only to remember that Corviknight now had the dual Steel type, and a Fire Fang ripped through her like she was melted cheese. Another Fire Fang, and she was toast. Maybe I'm hungry. Rice Cake was up before the count of 10, ready for round 2, and came back in raring to go. Now, without her increased speed buffs, Arcanine would outspeed us, leading with Crunch, as the AI saw no major damage with Fire-type moves anymore, as Rice Cake's defense and special defense was set back to default. We traded Crunches and Water Pulses, while I was hoping for the Confusion secondary effect, but no such luck. Arcanine crunched again, this time getting a critical hit, before Water Pulse knocked him down into KO range. If we survive one more crunch, Aqua Tail should see them off. And it does, just about. Talonflame was up next, and yes, it was intimidating, seeing off Rice Cake, Sylveon and Frankel before I buckled and used my final revive. Rice Cake was back up with Talonflame almost fainted. Not by my hand, however, but the recoil from multiple Flare Blitz having almost taken Talonflame out. Rice Cake finished the job, and I used my 1 Dynamax to face Kabu's ace, Center Scorch. Predictably, Kabu Dynamaxed Center Scorch, and the 2 giants faced off against one another. Rice Cake made short work of her opponent this time, however, with 2 Max Geysers being all that was needed to win the battle. And although I feel slightly bad using the 2 revives, I don't like using items in battle. Until I'm better at battling, I feel like it's okay for me to use a few helping hands now and again, even if it's just to make it more of an enjoyable experience. And with the third badge under my belt, we left the gym, and upon reaching the edge of Motorstoke, we were met by Hop and the first 3 gym leaders we had previously defeated, all meeting to see us off and wish us luck. Hammerlock was our next destination, but I felt I needed a few improvements to my team first. In the wild area, I found a Charmander named Moon, who will take the place of Frankel, and a Steelix to join the team in place of Sylveon. Using the wild Pokemon and trainers in the wild area, I leveled the Pokemon up to join the same level as our team, evolving Charmander into Charizard in the process. I found a Bulbasaur also along the path, who I caught and named Laura after another lovely commenter from the last video. I biked my way through the wild area, finally reaching the next step of our journey, Hammerlock. The dark industrial towers and high foreboding walls loomed over us, and gingerly, we stepped inside. Thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of my journey through Pokemon Sword. Once again, if you have any tips or ideas or just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. I always read every single one of them. Don't forget to subscribe. The mods used for this series will be in the description, and I'll see you in episode 3.